In his four-volume Klavierübung, compiled during the last 2 decades of his life, Johann Sebastian Bach tested the limits of contemporaneous compositional practices and keyboard instruments. His concerto after the Italian taste, BWV 971, a vigorous 3-movement work, was published in the second volume of his Klavierübung in 1735, together with the somber 8-movement overture after the French manner, BWV 831. This particular volume reveals Bach's masterful understanding of both the harpsichord and Italian and French Baroque styles and forms. Although indebted to the Italianate tradition in its form, virtuosity, and lyricism, Bach's Italian concerto also differed from the concertos by Italian composers, such as Antonio Vivaldi and Alessandro Marcello, that Bach encountered in Weimar, in terms of the added counterpoint and the blurring of orchestral and soloist roles. Bach began the first movement by mimicking traditional contrasts between orchestra and soloist roles, but on a solo keyboard instrument, with the first orchestral tutti section establishing the main key area and the segmented main thematic material at a forte dynamic level. However, he also blurred the roles after the first soloist section. Moreover, if the thematic and harmonic material of the final movement remains fairly simple, Bach transformed the scalar thematic material contrapuntally in the third movement, placing it in augmentation, diminution, inversion, and other permutations. Even in the second movement, Bach created 2 lines out of the deceptively simple accompaniment in the bass. Bach conceived this virtuosic work for 2 manual harpsichord, that is, a harpsichord with 2 keyboards, and this facilitated the dramatic evocations of full orchestra and keyboard roles. It's probable that Bach also had a German-built double manual harpsichord in mind when he composed the piece, and many German-built instruments of that type feature a powerful bass range and sound, much more so than contemporaneous French or Flemish instruments. Although we do not know the specific instrument Bach had in mind when composing the piece, he did have access to a double manual harpsichord made by Zacharias Hildebrandt at Zimmermann's Coffee House, where he directed weekly concerts in Leipzig in the 1730s. When he died, Bach also possessed a number of keyboard instruments. Based on their estimated value, Robert Marshall has suggested that 4 might have been double manual harpsichords. A contemporary of Bach, Johann Scheibe, praised the Italian concerto in 1739, stating, quote, "Who is there who will not admit at once that this clavier concerto is to be regarded as a perfect model of a well-designed concerto," end quote. Yet the recent reception of the Italian concerto has been mixed, with some scholars criticizing more conventional formal elements than some of Bach's earlier concerti, such as the opening and closing tutti sections of the first movement. Federico Garcia has maintained, however, that the piece might not necessarily be regressive, since the second and third movements, which he claims were composed later, feature a stunning use of complex counterpoint and represent a more distinctively original approach. Bach's Italian concerto is frequently programmed and recorded. It is also beloved by many audiences. And it's interesting to note that women played an important role in the early recording history of the piece. Wanda Landowska created what is believed to be the first recording on a cylinder in 1908. This was the first movement only, though. The first acoustic recording of the complete composition took place in 1927, and that was by Violet Gordon Woodhouse, also on harpsichord. Around the same time, both Arthur Schnabel in 1924 and Vladimir de Pachmann in 1926 created piano rolls of the piece. By the 1930s, it had become common to perform and record the piece on either instrument, despite the fact that pianos have only one manual. Pianists must rely on a variety of touches to create the same type of contrast possible on a double manual harpsichord. In the 1990s, reworkings, arrangements, and transcriptions of the piece also began to abound on a variety of other instruments, including saxophone quartet, guitar duo, accordion, and recorder quartet, among others. In addition, it has been set by the Mark Morris Dance Company for 5 dancers, and it has also been used in film scores, such as Mr. Ripley in 1999, Harvard Man in 2001, and Bridgerton in 2021. In the following recording, Victoria Suchodolski chose to record the Italian Concerto on a double manual harpsichord by Peter Fisk, built in 2010 in a Flemish style. In this particular performance, Victoria plays the outer movements with the manuals coupled. That means that both sets of strings are linked for a richer and fuller sound. She plays on the lower manual with the couplings to get the full orchestral sound for the parts marked forte or loud, and on the upper manual for the parts marked piano. In the middle Andante movement, she still plays on the lower manual for the forte parts. Victoria aims for a stately and grand affect in the first movement. In the second, she imagines the right hand as a lyrical solo violin, playing over an accompanimental continuo part. She plays the final movement in a fast 2, but chose a more moderate tempo than some recordings because, as she states, the acoustics made that the best choice. She said, quote, "In my space, a faster tempo would have made it sound unclear. I would say this is true for the harpsichord in general, in my experience." Please enjoy the performance of Bach's Italian Concerto by Victoria Suchodolski.
Thank you.